Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano and welcome to the Harpin and Rugby Preview Show. Joining me today to look ahead to Leinster's next match is someone taking the lead at the top of our appearance charts, taking it even further today, earning cap number 32. Warm welcome to Mr. Neil Keego Keegan.
How are we? You must be getting that grant from the EU at this stage for having me on so often. Great to see you.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, just before we start looking at the lineups, a bit of breaking news from the rugger sphere. The dates and times for rounds 1 and 2 of the Heineken Champions Cup are finally released. Our first match away to Racing 92 will not be in Paris because of a concert at the Défense Arena. It has been switched to the Stade Océan in Le Havre, kicking off in the dreaded lunchtime slot of 1 p.m. Irish time on Saturday, December the 10th. Then we have a 6-day turnaround to Friday night when Gloucester come to the RDS in round 2. I'd say a good few Leinster fans are looking forward to an excuse to visit Paris, Keego. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of surprising myself with a trip to Paris and also, a bit of rugby. I would have a surprise for her when we got there. But, it's not to be. So 1 p.m. is going to be a tricky one as well. How do I get out of the house at 1 p.m.? But, it's business. That's the problem. They've got bills to pay. It's a lovely new stadium. And sure, whoever's in there is probably going to pay twice what we would have paid to be in there. Won't drink as much beer, but they'll probably pay more for the rent.
That's it. Well, they get a duty-free going over to anyway, so whatever happens. But anyway, listen, but just one more thing. If you follow us on TikTok, you'll see we're keeping tabs on both Racing and Gloucester over on that account. So if you're into the TikToking, be sure to follow us at Harpin on Rugby. Okay, so without any further ado, this week's feature Harpin match is Leinster versus Cell C Sharks. It's in round 4 of the 22-23 BKT United Rugby Championship. It's taking place at the RDS Arena on Saturday, October the 8th, kicking off at 5:05 p.m. And it's being shown on RTE2, Premier Sports 1, Super Sport, Discovery Plus, and also URC.tv, where you'll get all this season's matches for just $6.99 a month. Leinster named their matchday squad at lunchtime on Friday, so why don't we crack on with Harpin on it, starting with the back line. So at fullback for Leinster, we've got Jimmy O'Brien. The wings are Rob Russell and Jordan Larmour. The centres, Charlie Natai and Robbie Henshaw. And at halfback, we got Luke McGrath and skipper Johnny Sexton.
It's brilliant. The best part of the early season for me is how they put the squads together. Guys coming back, players hungry to get into the squad. So you look at the job Jimmy O'Brien's done over the last 2 seasons. Brilliant. He's been a regular. I think the worry we have for him is where's he going to play? He can play everywhere. And if you're a jack of all trades, which is good for him, he'll always get game time, but it's a bit of a worry too. But then you kind of got Henshaw, who's on a run of form that's going on maybe 8 years now. Absolutely amazing. One of the first guys on the squad. We've got Charlie starting, which is great. As we've spoken about before, it is taking a little bit of time. We've seen flashes of him, being what we think he is. And I think the confidence showing him to start is really, really huge. And obviously the big man back at 10. I'm trying to remain calm, Jeff. I'm trying to remain calm this year because I see things in my head about the end of this season. I see a lot of things lining up in terms of karma and all that sort of stuff. But I've got to remain calm. We're gonna find out a lot of how he starts the season. I think he's going to start like he's playing for a contract, even though he's playing for a real job in a suit after this. And I think we're going to see the difference. He's going to be metaphorically giving all the other 10s in world rugby the finger by showing that he is still head, shoulders, knees and toes above everybody else. And then it's going to be interesting to see what everybody else does. But I think, you look at Larmour as well, coming back, hitting great form, a little bit of injury, but he's there or thereabouts as well, which is a great problem for the big tracksuit to have. But I'm really excited.
Absolutely, and it's an interesting the way they brought Natai back after his heroics towards the end of the match in Ravenhill.
Yeah,
and they brought him in, but they moved Henshaw over to 13. That's an interesting combination. It's very strong centre parent, and probably needed against the Sharks as well. So be interesting to see how that works out. Right, let's move on to the forwards now. In the front row, we've got Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Michael Alatoa. The second row, once again, is Ross Maloney and Jason Jenkins. And the back row, Ryan Baird, Will Connors, and Jack Conan.
It's insane. Now, starting off with Jenkins, I'm just really positive today on a Friday. I love the job he's doing. It is a role that we do need. And when you say it, we're not saying it like the players are not tough, but there's a bit of beef, there's a bit of malice about him. He's a big boy as well, and he is as opposed to Charlie, who's taking a bit of time. He's straight in there, day one, ready to rock and roll, and I think that puts pressure on our backup guys, which is never a bad thing. You look at Porter coming back off injury; he's one of our Iron Men. Sheehan as well. Like, when people are on a run like that, Sheehan, you look at Henshaw, you look at Furlong when he gets moving, you've got to get them on the pitch. You've got to take advantage of the run they're on, obviously while keeping them safe. It's whatever form of life you are. If you're on a run, you've got to go with it. And I think until that run starts diminishing, or I don't want to jinx it, something happens to him, that's his jersey at number 2. And that feeds Kelleher. That makes Kelleher on the sideline maybe a bit angrier, maybe a bit more frustrated, and he's going to push himself harder, which is going to push Sheehan harder. You look at the job Maloney's done early doors as well. Like, it's, again, we've got to try and remain calm, but when you look at the different formations that Leo and Stuart have put together so far this season, they've all gelled really well. Now, we had a nervy start, which is fine, but if you look at it since then, last week against Ulster, that first half, there was one team, the other team may as well stayed in the sheds. And that's a different formation again last week. So I think you look at that pack, you look at those forwards, and you kind of go, if this is the first game or the last game of the season, that's nearly what you pick.
Yep, definitely. And two things about it. Like, we wondered, like, we needed this South African teams coming in to show us a bit of power, to show how we could play against these beefy packs. And we got 2 things. I mean, what's the best thing? What's the best answer to South African beef? Our own South African beef. He's there. But also Will Connors as well, coming in with his chop tackles. We missed him a lot last season, and that's going to be interesting to see how utilizing him from the start is going to affect their attack. Okay, so now on to the bench, and we've got John McKee, Cian Healy, Baktang Abdulazza, James Ryan, and Rhys Ruddock in the forwards, and then Cormac Foley, Ross Byrne, and Gary Ringrose.
You've got leaders everywhere. Ross Byrne, Ringrose, Healy. They all have a lot of experience at big ball playing games. If they bring on, and you've got Ruddock on the bench as well. Like, that guy is an animal, and you've got Ryan on there too. So I think if they're changing the front row at kind of hopefully 55 minutes, that gives those guys to get a few minutes into their boots. I'd love to see John McKee get a shot. Get more than 10 minutes. Just to show, because it's going to be a tough game. As you say, the South Africans are coming in. They want a trophy. It took them a little bit of time to settle into the competition, but they're here now, and they are throwing down the gauntlet to everybody. And you will see a lot of teams wilt. So getting minutes in the boots of players like John McKee is going to be great. Cormac Foley I'd love to see as well. Like, I haven't seen much of him, but anytime you see a new face on that team sheet, they're ready to rock and roll. You know that they've been pushed. You know they're ready to go. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to put them in the squad, certainly early doors in the season, let's get minutes in the boots. It's always going to pay dividends.
Absolutely. And with Gary Ringrose wearing the 23 jersey, it'd be interesting to see how they utilize that. You talked about Jimmy O'Brien being versatile. Hopefully nothing goes wrong and no one goes down injured, but he's got the ability to move to the wing. We've seen Charlie Natai play in the wing. It'll be, they might have some kind of plan to bring Ringrose in and play with a different formation in the back line. So we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so now on to our opposition, the Cell C Sharks. That's the second time I've said it in this podcast. I've got it right both times. I've been practicing for the last half an hour. It's not easy to say. I won't read out the lineup, but hopefully my graphics team will be put it on the screen for me. And for pod listeners, it'll be there in the program notes. I had a great chat with AP Cronje during the week about their squad, among other things. Check that out. It's on the pod before this one in the feed. It's not quite the same side we faced in the reverse fixture back in April, but with 2 wins under their belt on this tour already, this certainly isn't a given, is it?
Not at all. And if you look at the stats, because I won't be able to call out players much like yourself, but if you look at a lot of the really important stats, like, lineouts is pretty close, tackle success is pretty close. We've conceded more penalties than they have. Okay, there's one more game, so that's kind of where we're at. But they don't pass the ball that much. They don't give away penalties cheaply. and South African defence is going to be there ready to rock and roll. So it's going to take something interesting for Leinster to break them down. I'm not saying they can't. It's just going to be something interesting that we haven't necessarily seen so far this season. Because certainly last week, first half, it was pretty much our own traffic. Second half, that can't happen anymore. That second half kind of mental lapse, it's a bit like me and Matt's paper too, that can't happen. Now, the Sharks haven't scored that many tries even in the first two games. So, while they do enjoy not giving away penalties and hanging on to the ball, they're not scoring that many tries. So, defensively, we should be fine. It's going to be interesting going forward. They've missed kicks and all that sort of stuff. So, they don't like pressure. They like having the ball, so it'll be interesting to see how we navigate that. You look at the back rows on both sides. That's going to be a really interesting, as always, at the top level. The back rows, how they're going to navigate that breakdown, how they're going to navigate everything, is going to be great. Like the packs are, the Irish pack is there in the blue jersey, and I think they'll be okay. It's the back rows on the backs which is going to be the interesting part.
Absolutely, yeah. They do have a few dangerous names. AP told me about their out half boy to Chamberlain. He's an up and coming out half for them, and they have a very dangerous back three, especially Werner Koch and Afareli Fassi. I knew I'd get that wrong. But we definitely, if we're going to kick to them, we want to make sure it's accurate because they can definitely hurt us. So like you say, they didn't play in round one. Their match against the Stormers was put off until later in the season. So they had two matches against Zebra and the Dragons, who some might say, well, they were the bottom two teams last season, but they started. We as Leinster fans know they started very well, Zebra, and they nearly got done over by the Dragons as well last week. So they've had two tough wins, and they'll be looking for a third this weekend. Okay, so now on to the officials. Now I put in this bit where I put the officials on the screen, but there's no point talking about them. We said it last week. I had Mark on, and we were saying a lot of people, when people talk about referees, they go, "Oh no, it's not that referee." Blah 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 blah. But it's all about playing to the officials, isn't it?
100%. At every single level of the game, you're able to tell what the referee. Well, these guys know what the ref's going to do ahead of time. But like at any level of the game, the first 2-3 minutes, that's how the game is going to go. And I think Evans is going to be on the whistle. They know exactly the way he's going to go. They know what he likes, what he doesn't like. It's a matter of them executing that on the pitch. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, so it's head on the block time. We're getting into our predictions. We're gonna see what Keego thinks. He's done a Super Brew selections for the weekend, I'm sure, and he's going to tell us how he thinks the matches are going to go. Starting with the match at the RDS, Leinster versus the Sharks. Who's going to win and by how much?
Okay, so I got the Leinster the win correct last week, and everything else completely and horrifically wrong. But I think, the target on Leinster early season is going to be interesting. They're coming for a scalp here, they're coming for a scalp. I think it's us. I think it's the 7 points again. I think it's +7, and I think it'll be a strong finish. I think it's the last quarter is going to be all blue, but it's going to be tough up to that point. So Leinster +7.
I think the last time a South African team came to the RDS, we've learned from then not to take anything for granted. So they'll definitely be targeting this match on this tour. But I still think we have a strong enough lineup to do it. I'm with you. I think we'll win. I have us by 10 points. So that's what we're saying there. So we're kind of in agreement there. Right, on to it's Friday night's match. Big interprovincial, very important match for both teams. Connacht versus Munster. Which way you're leaning?
I think this is going to be something like, 10-7. It's 3 points. They both need a win so badly. It's Munster by 3, something like that. I think it's going to be horrific. I think the pressure is going to get to the two of them. They both know exactly what they need to do, and they're not going to be able to do it. I'm good at the Bundy's going to miss it. I'm good at the, there's a lot of things going against Connacht right now. But if Connacht can get on a roll, I don't think Munster can handle it mentally. And again, it seems like I'm brought on here just to give out about Munster, but every time. But no, I think it's. I think if Connacht, that's it. Yeah, if Connacht can get a roll, I think they win. But I just don't think right now they have it in them. So I think it's Munster by kind of 3 or 2 penalties or 1 try without a conversion.
Yeah, the bookies have Munster by 4. I'm going the other way. It's kind of it's their first match in the new stadium. They've had a rotten start to the season, but they still have a lot of great options in their squad. Munster have finally gotten the memo on playing Carberry at full back, so we might see a different game plan from them. But both teams need a result, and I'm just going with the home team, Connacht by 4. But it's definitely could go either way. So we'll see what happens there. And then finally, we've got up in Belfast on Saturday, Ulster versus the Ospreys. How do you see that?
It's Ulster, and I think I don't think anyone fancies going up there. You look at what happened second half last week. You look even at the weather in the first half. No one fancies it. I think it's Ulster, and I think there's a try. Again, if they get on a roll, it's a big score. But I think they've got to get into the game first, and I think that might cost them a few points on the scoreboard. But it's Ulster by 7-10.
Yeah, I've got Ulster by 8, but I just want to warn any Ulster fans listening. The Ospreys have been my bogey team, well, forever. Since I've been following Leinster. The Super Bowl this year, they go the opposite of what I say, so I wouldn't read too much into that. But anyway, that's Ulster by 8, so we'll see what happens there. All 8 matches are exciting in the URC this weekend, so it'll be a good weekend of rugby ahead. Right, mate, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Keego for joining me today. Be sure to enjoy the match wherever you are, and at the full-time whistle, why not head to the Harpin and Rugby Facebook page and leave your thoughts. We'll share them on our wrap-up pod this Sunday evening. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.